about a specific project that you didn't succeed on. What will you change next time, and what did you learn from the situation? Let's start with Cheryl.
Okay, a project that wasn't successful. I guess the way that I look at things is time matters. And so something that you might do, set your sight on this year might not come to fruition in a year. Maybe it's not 5 years. Maybe it's not 10 years. Maybe it's not 40 years. So I don't look at things as really unsuccessful. It's a matter of dedication, perseverance, and the vision that you have to move people, to move an issue. And so as far as the tribal councils, I don't think that there have been unsuccessful things. We know that we have gone through many trials and tribulations concerning our enrollment. And if we would have looked back a few years ago, we'd say, oh, that's just... But there are paths and avenues that we can find to get through those things. And so the way I look at things is, I will continue those things that I believe are right. I will continue to work on them, even if others may say, oh, you know, that's never going to happen. Well, if that was never going to happen, we would never be a tribe here today. We would have said, that's too much. Who are we, little Grand Ronde Indians, to go and take on the United States Congress? Who are we? How could that ever be? I remember when I went over to London, and the Summers collection now, a piece of it is now at Grand Ronde. When I went there in the early 2002 or whenever it was, I sat in that room. And as I was with all of the dignitaries there of the UK and of the British Museum, I looked around the room and I told them very clearly, we're here to repatriate our artifacts. They are ours. We believe that the ministers who took them, who are part of the Anglican Church of England, it was in their heart, it was in their mind to return them to us if we survived. If you read the documents, it says, if they survive, because there was a belief we weren't going to be, but look, we're here. So I was sitting in that room and I looked around and I looked at June, my fellow councilwoman, and a couple of our staff that were there with us, and I thought, the UK, that's the size of Idaho. We, as a very small people, went to our United States government, which is the most powerful country in the world, and we got them to say it was a mistake and to overturn, and we became a restored tribe. So I look at things, yeah, it's a matter of time, the dedication, the perseverance, and the vision that you have. So that's my response.
Thanks, Cheryl. John or Brenda, who'd like to go next?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian, too. I truly will be mindful of time also, so I don't want to live up to my reputation here, so I'm gonna, but thank you again, Adrian, for a question on about participating in a project that was not successful. When we have an executive team, I think that we help rely on, and currently now we have a team that's looking at, because we're getting closer to an economic development director, and so I'm going to speak on the basis of an economic development project, as you had asked what project we participated in. And so upon that, to think of it as looking at if for it to be a project to be successful or not successful, truly does take a good due diligence on looking on that. Is it worth investing in? Is it worth building? Is it worth, the idea that we kind of go beyond making an economic venture that would support per capita or support, you know, other programs in the tribe. And so the first step would be is that it would take a majority vote of tribal council. And so upon that majority vote, you have to look at yes or no, whatever. And so even if it was majority and I was to vote no, whatever, as tribal council, I still need to support the vote that was the majority and still take on the responsibility of that vote or not. Because I am part of the leadership, and not to come out against it or anything else, I support what the majority does. And so through that team and everything else, I will go back, and the first thing I think of is microgreen. An investment we thought that was supposed to be really good, supposed to make us good money, and as it went on and went on, it kept coming back to say, you need to put more money in that. And there was at one time I finally had said, no, we're not putting any more money in it. When they start coming back and asking for millions, you know, and I said no. And then it came to the point of, and I asked the question, and at one time because they were asking for more money and everything else, and I said, so if we don't, then is it putting the investment that we have already put in, if we don't, then would we lose everything? And the answer was yes. So you kind of feel like then it's like, okay, now I need to protect the investment that we did, because you hear the thing saying, okay, it's going to turn around, it's going to, you know, it's going to start making money and all this. And so when you look at those types of questions, it can become a hard decision, but it has to be more of an economic or financial decision that you have to do. And so, you know, so as part of that leadership at that time, and I do take responsibility for the thoughts or the decisions that were made upon that bad investment and losing that, but we're very thankful that our portfolios, endowment investments, grew much larger than the loss that we did. But still, it was a loss. And I'm part of that. And for me, I apologize to the membership for that, those investments, apologize for losing that money. But I think it's also made us stronger in our decisions to make in the future, to require a better due diligence about looking at what we're going to invest in. And so those would be my reasons as we move forward and everything. And I think we have a pretty smart team on board too that would bring something, because we have some that they bring and they say, don't, we recommend not to. So some don't even make it, you know, to a decision. It's already, I mean, to the decision to either move forward. Some are just are already dropped and told, we don't recommend this. So I'm fortunate for that team. My other thing that I would also like to apologize to our membership also, and mainly to a lot of the families that are sitting here today, was one of the decisions that I made about the emergency amendment. And in that decision that I made, I knew that it was not right. And I know I'd apologized to some of the family already. But me as a tribal leader, I let fear guide my decision on that. I knew it wasn't right. But when you hear the other things about telling us about then that you're going to be sued, you're going to, you know what you're doing. I want the membership to know today, from learning from that mistake, that I will never let anything else decide my decisions besides what I feel is right. And I will move forward no matter what the consequence. If people want to sue us or whatever, that's fine. But I will only make a decision for my membership to knowing that what is right and what I feel is right from there. And so that way I think it has made me a better leader for this tribe, a better person, and a better man for that. So thank you, and I do apologize for that decision today to this family.
John, Brenda.
So I feel like I really need to mention enrollment right now, but it's not a project. It's not a project. I feel like, and not that we haven't been successful, it's just moving slower. By now, I would have had hoped that our enrollment issues, our split families, our tribe would have been able to be on the mend right now. I truly wish that that could have been settled, addressed and settled, and we move forward. But as far as a project, I think that I would also talk about reestablishing our economic development department. Again, not that it wasn't successful, but we had some roadblocks, and we're moving slower than we would have liked to. I feel like it has held us back. And one example is I feel like I have always wanted to help our casino become a destination resort with an RV park. I really believe that if we got those $500,000 rigs in there, it would really help with the revenue. So I've really wanted to do that, but I'm not an expert. So we need that economic developer or person in there who knows how to assess our risks, who knows our limitations. And so I think the one thing I would choose is that we have not yet reestablished our economic development department.
Thank you very much. Next question from anybody in the audience? Anybody? Let's go with Frank.
Frank Gossett, Road 2530. I have a number of questions. Now, I'm sorry for being late, but when you say economic development, are you talking about outside, or are you talking about inside GR? My second question is, I think we need to visit the Economic Development Committee. In that, if we look at the last 10 years, how many economic developers have we gone through, and how many have we paid off? So there can't be that many wrong economic developers. So we have to look inside our own and say, what are those individuals' qualifications? What's the board like? Maybe we should expand that.
Great question. Let me paraphrase, Frank, if that's all right. So when you all speak to economic development, are you speaking to making money on external, or are you talking about economic development in the Grand Ronde community? And then I think the second part of this question is, why try to rely on one individual to be that source? What about creating a board or a committee that can help make economic development decisions? So let's have Brenda go first. And is that close enough, Frank? Okay. So let's go with Brenda, and then we'll see who wants to go next.
In my opinion, we're talking about both inside and outside. As far as inside goes, it may look a little bit different because I think then you're talking about community development, where you're providing jobs in the community, which may not create a huge source of revenue, but it puts our people to work, and it keeps money in the community to move around like it needs to move around. But I'm also talking about outside. As far as the one person, I don't think we need just one person, but we need somebody or an economic development board. I'm fine with that. But what I get uncomfortable with is when these big decisions are left to 9 people who may or may not, probably not, have experience in assessing risk and limitations and all these opportunities. I'm fine with a board. I'm happy with that. I'm also happy with an economic director who is highly skilled, highly experienced, and also using contracting out in special areas, for example, cannabis. We may not get an economic developer or a board, any one board member that has experience in medical marijuana or the hemp industry. So we may then need to, at that point, contract out and get an expert in. So I think there's many ways to go about it. I'm not just locked into one way, one person, or just the board.
I'd like to go next. Cheryl?
Sure. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. I believe both. I believe that the tribe would be remiss in, the one extra facet I would say is that I believe that the tribe should help tribal members in economic development ventures. I believe that self-sufficiency has been a goal of the tribe ever since we were restored. And even before, it's in our restoration documents. And so I see it very broadly. The investment in the tribal members, which is education. I mean, that's a big piece of it. But for grant type programs and loan programs, for training for members to develop their own businesses, I'm a strong believer in that. I believe that at Grand Ronde we need to have an economic engine there to support all of the tribal families that we do have, to build a huge housing complex that isn't diverse, that includes all economic scales, is wrong. The area cannot support just members who might fit into a lower economic status. So I believe in both. I really believe that there are opportunities in other areas outside of Grand Ronde. I believe that there are strong economic places here in Portland and metropolitan areas that need to be looked at. You know, one of the things, my degrees are in business, and so I have the training to know and how to look at performance statements and what elements of due diligence are required to look at projects and to look at cash flow statements to see where we're at. I do have that background, and you know, when I was on one of the first boards, the SMD board, that was years ago, we attracted economic development directors who I believe seen a tribe, our tribe, as wealthy, and that they could do their own dealings in their own business and build up possibly their own career status, rather than looking at what our needs really were. But there were a couple of projects that I kept my eye on that came before us. But you have to remember, when you're on a board, you're one person. When you're on council, you're one person. And your ideas don't always float because you're up against people who don't believe that, who don't know. And so you're constantly trying to encourage them. This is a good deal, has all the markings. This is the future. Look at this magazine. You can see in technology what's happening. Those kind of things. But the two that really hit it running were, one, the new Jaws of Life that are sold in every fire department, every hospital. That one we refused. The other one was this forerunner of bottles that turned bad water sludge into drinkable water. That didn't go with us. And I thought, my God, this is, and of course my background is health too, so they were very important to me. So to understand the dynamics of a group and what they bring to the table often hinders that project. The other things that I thought, as far as tribal council, were vineyards in Western Oregon before there were vineyards. Now it's the cash cow out there. I always thought that, and of course, I think everyone always knew that I was very supportive that Portland needed to have a casino here before any were thought of here. The other idea that I thought, people still laugh at it, think it's far out, I wanted one in Hong Kong. But, you know, as far as businesses, there's the element of striking while it's hot. It's really important. If you do research on any successful business, there was not only the due diligence, all of that has to be there, the timing has to be right. So there's a number of intangibles there that, you know, I think that has to be looked at. Thank you for the question, Frank. Yes, I believe in developing everyone as we go along.
All right, John.
Yes. So yes, I say yes to the question, in and out of Grand Ronde from that. And, you know, and I don't want you to feel like that just because we're the incumbents and we've been on council and all this stuff, we're just agreeing with each other to make you all think that we're the good candidates or whatever. But this is the way we think. This is the way that we think today on tribal council. You know, with our new younger council, I call it, because we're elders sitting here. We have younger council, but have fresh thoughts, you know, fresh ideas also. And that's how we work together, Frank, about that. And that's what we're thinking about, the viability of this tribe. We can't just think that the casino is our cash cow and that's all you're going to get. You know, I mean, that's all the per capita you're going to get. That's only what how we're going to support our programs is only what comes from the casino. We have to think outside the box. You know, we have to. You know what? If we want to continue to grow, you know, and for like more housing for Grand Ronde, but also jobs where our members are too, about investing in something here, especially here in Portland. You know, we have 30 acres just down the, you know, not far from here today. Something about that, you know, looking at investments too. And so I think Cheryl and Brenda both had said that, you know, you can't just rely on one person making the decision. You know, I like the idea of a board. We've had those discussions on that. Currently, we have the executive team that actually makes decisions, and it's made up of other things. But they have full-time jobs, so we can't rely just on them to give up their day to decide on if a project is good or not. You know, from there, yes, they have expertise and everything else, but ultimately it still comes down to the majority of council of the 9 that would make that decision to move forward. And so, because Grand Ronde doesn't have the infrastructure and all that to like build other things, we're looking at like that, like we're saying, let's build on the casino then to bring more people there. Yes, then it will build a better economic base for that. And I love the idea. I support the RV park and the casino being a destination resort with other things to do there, you know, that would give jobs, you know, to our local community and tribal members there. But outside too, Portland metro area is a very large, there's over 1 million people, it's 2 million people in this area. You know, that can support something that we do to provide jobs, you know, here for our membership, you know, ones that live across the river, you know, anything to build that. Because what we look at and to not thinking that you're going to be elected because you're going to state the basis is that I want to promise you more per capita, you know. Yeah, we could do that, but how are you going to do it? That's the question. You know, that's what's building on what you need to do to, if you want to say, I want to give our members more per capita, fine, anybody can say that, but how are you going to do it? And that is about building, you know, the infrastructure here. You know, in the rural area, if you don't have, we were thinking of a truck stop or a grocery store, because Highway 18 going to the coast is one of the busiest highways, you know, here in Oregon. If we want to do that, let's put that stuff there. Let's let them stop in Grand Ronde then. Let's put Grand Ronde on the map that has that, and that we can and provide those jobs, you know, for our membership. Because I think out of every $10 in a rural area, when there's no shopping or any other type of structures that can support it, $7 of that $10 leaves the community. It'll go to Mac, it'll go to Salem, you know, that to those businesses there that have them. And then they have to travel to get there. It costs them to also drive to go get, you know, their groceries, you know. So we have to look at things like that because, you know, as I grew up in Grand Ronde as a little boy too, you pretty much had to rely on all the other families to kind of help you out, you know. My mom took boxes of our clothes to give to another family because we outgrew our clothes and gave those clothes to them. Somebody would bring a deer to our door. It's not that nice. Everything else, or salmon or anything, you know, would bring food because we knew a family was hungry. So those, you know, we have too many now to be able to do that, and so we do need the infrastructures.
Thanks, John.
Sorry.
That's okay, no problem. So Debbie, you had your hand up for the next question.
Actually, Frank parroted my question.
Okay, that's a similar question.
Are we going to communicate, or are we just going to talk? Because if we're going to communicate, Frank isn't quite happy with the answers he's got.
Okay, let's have a follow-up then, Frank.
You
So
know
what's
what
it?
I'm
Okay, so help, okay.
Brenda's touched on it. John played with it. In that, what I'd like to do is I would like to have those individuals that have that full-time job. They have education. I'm not saying that they can't do it, but what I'm saying is, if we're gonna put money into the casino, which make it a destination, fine. Okay, but what I'm saying is we need to address those individuals and we need to help them out and set them up for success. Okay? And set yourself up for success as a body. So we need to give those people some attention. Maybe an assistant, you see what I'm saying? Expand their job description, because this is, well, we failed in economic development. So that's, Frank's not gonna let this go. I'll delay on other things, but as far as economic development and who's involved, I think we need to address this.
Yeah, what I understand there is building more capacity around it, is what you're saying.
There you go, yes.
So, Brenda wants to follow, okay.
I couldn't agree with you more, Frank. I think my fellow council members are, maybe get a little weary of me saying, we must set our employees up, all employees, from the highest level to entry level, with the opportunity to succeed. We have to do whatever we can to keep them from failing. So I agree, whoever we hire, whether it's a board, whether it's the director, whoever we hire, we must give them the tools to succeed. I agree.
Great. So Debbie, do you still have a question?
Just a follow-up.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, the other 6 aren't here, but because you 3 are incumbents, it's been 9 months since you guys have come together, and people have been talking about this board idea for years now. And I don't know that it has to be this huge, grandiose board. If you had a think tank of all the people that you hear from the tribe who have ideas, who just pull together a think tank and move forward until, I know you've tried to hire somebody and it hasn't been successful. And, you know, so in the interim, and I know you guys can't tell all your secrets either about what's going on as a council, but in the interim, are you working towards something until that happens? Done.
Okay, thank you. Who'd like to answer that?
I go.
Sure.
Presently, there's been the statement that the executive team is the team that receives proposals from all sorts. They look at them, do due diligence, vet them, and if there's something that's viable, bring them forward to tribal council. So they are serving in that capacity. As far as a independent board, I mean, there's been the idea that there should be an independent board who deals with those kind of proposals, does all the work, the due diligence, and would meet with tribal council to determine the issues addressed that tribal council would like to have addressed. So there's those two pieces that would go together. That has not been formalized. We really want to get input from the economic developer that we would hire to see, you know, how maybe they can add more value to it, or we want to hear from them. So that's where we're at in that process. I guess as far as the tribal council has set aside funds, you know, of course, to hire someone, and it's just been a kind of a strange situation. I will say this, we have met on the issue about why isn't this moving? Where in the United States are these people that we are missing? What's going on there? And we have had discussions as yesterday. So it's very important to us. I agree that the think tank is a good idea of tribal members coming together. And certainly in the forums that are being provided now at the community meetings, that issue has not surfaced. And I think that it should. So there's still opportunity to get that on the board and to identify members, because there are our tribal council people who own businesses, who are very successful, who can help guide that. So thank you.
Who'd you like to go next from Tom?
You know, because, you know, and it has been discussions, and thank you, Debbie, for that follow-up about that. And, you know, I think we've pretty successfully also created a Terrell Commission, you know, so an Economic Development Commission also, you know, in that sense, because I look around the room and there are successful tribal members right here in this room that could also, for their input on economic development plans, whatever ideas, you know, I see them sitting right here that are accessible to begin with. So all of the, just even the minds in this room, you know, would create great ideas from here. And we also want to look at that as in, we're working currently on our new strategic plan also for that. And in that strategic plan is a community development plan also. And from that, you know, from those things, those are those guidance, those are these, why we have these community meetings, you know, from that. We have very intelligent, great thinking tribal members, you know, that can bring those ideas to the table for us too. Because our membership should not just rely on 9 minds thinking that this is what's going to solve the problems or the economic issues for the tribe. You know, it is about listening to our tribal members, you know, and doing that. And when that board, or however we want it to be, a committee and stuff too, that's something it does. It isn't something to say, you know what, no, we know better. That's why we want something like that, to bring those minds there. If anybody sat with the tribal council on a daily basis, we would work probably 18 hours a day if we had to continually discuss all the things that we think of. I mean, there has to be, you know, time structured for that. And that's why it says you look out beyond that and take those ideas from the tribal members. You take, you know, their suggestions of saying, this is, you know, I thank you, Frank, for asking that, because, and Debbie, that this is what would help the tribe. I think this would be a good idea. And like Cheryl says, you have to seize the moment, you know, because we already know people are in the hemp industry or the, you know, and those types of things. An advisory vote was was a hemp thing, you know. Well, you gotta create infrastructure also too, to, if we want people to come home and go to work, you know, they don't wanna live in their car and go to work. They need some place to stay, to put, you know, and hang their head at night, you know, so, okay.
Thanks, John. Brenda, you want to say anything, or are you good?
I already did it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm going to go do a quick